Sahana bhavatu, Sahanau bhunaktu, Saha viryam karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Stotram. Akhanda mandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam tatpadam darsitam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Ajnanatimirandhasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshur militam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Stavaram Jangamam Yaptam, Yatkim Chissacharacharam, Tatpadam Darsitam Yena, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapiyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darsitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Gurudeva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Amadeva Deva. We are doing Atmabodha. Started the sloka 17th. Chant along with me. Sada sarvagatopyatma, Sada sarvagatopyatma, na sarvatra bhasate, na sarvatra bhasate, buddha veva bhaseta, buddha veva bhaseta, swacheshu pratibimbavatu, swacheshu pratibimbavatu. So after discussing the Pancha Koshas, the 5 koshas, the 5 sheets, Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha. So these koshas are all as though they are sheets covering the Atma. Not that Atma is covered, but when we take myself, I am only Annam, I am almost my knowledge of that I am pure existent consciousness is covered by the notion that I am only this body, Annamaya Kosha. So they act as though they are covering the Atma, and it is like Suddhatma Nilavastradi. So it is just pure Atma, but Neelam, the color, is superimposed on Spatikam, which is crystal clear, but because of the vicinity or association with the blue cloth, the Patika also looks blue. So although the Panchakoshas are, by definition, they are inert because they are koshas, I identifying with them with the Panchakoshas, Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya koshas, and in the process, I take their properties as my properties, just as the property of Neelavastram, the blue cloth, is taken as the property of the crystal which has no color, which is a crystal clear. Therefore, in order for this knowledge to be crystal clear, I had to use a viveka, a discrimination, saying that I am not these panchakoshas, but I am that pure Atma, but in my presence all the panchakoshas are being active. And in the previous sloka it was said, Upadi Tratayad Anyam Atmanam Avadharayet. So there it is Upadi Tritayam, that is Tritaya, which is the three bodies, Sula Sariram, Sukshma Sariram and Karana Sariram, Anyam, that which is different from all this, Atmanam Avadharayet. That has to be understood. And this can be understood only by Yuktya Avadhatataha. In the 16th sloka, it says, by constant reflecting on the teaching of the Vedanta, one can detach oneself with the identification with the Panchakoshas or Upadi, three Upadis, and establish oneself that I am pure existent consciousness. And now how this occurs, how this misunderstanding that I am the body, mind and intellect is taken up in this 17th sloka that we chanted. Sada sarvagatapyatma na sarvatra vabhasate buddha veva bhaseta buddha veva avabhaseta swacheshu pratibhimbavatu. So sada sarvagatapyatma, even though the consciousness, existent consciousness is eternal, sada, sarvagataha is all-pervading or infinite, na sarvatra avabhasate, it is cannot be seen everywhere or anywhere, or it is not shining everywhere, or it is not expressing itself as a consciousness everywhere. Na sarvatra avabhasate, even though it is there everywhere. Buddha veva bhasyata. So, in the buddhi alone, it is avabhasate. It shines itself. Swacheshu pratibhimbavatu. Just as in a clean mirror, the image is formed. So, this analogy has to be understood clearly. Who is a jiva? And what is the Atma? What's the relation between the Jiva and Atma, which is Paramatma, which is all-pervading, eternally present reality, which we call Paramatma, and Jivatma, which is localized and which is not Sada, which is only temporarily existing in this body. So, what is the relation between the two? Here it says, it is the reflection of the all-pervading consciousness in the buddhi. So, all-pervading consciousness is of the nature of, as though it is a light of consciousness, so it is brilliant, everywhere present. But it is not expressed anywhere, because to express anywhere, equipments to express have to be there. And those equipments that are conducive to express or qualified to express or are able to express can only express the glory of that all-pervading Atma, which is of the nature of Satchidananda Swarupam. So therefore, we need a subtle body to reflect that light. Gross body cannot reflect it because it's gross. So just as every object cannot reflect completely, only the mirror, polished mirror, can fully reflect the sunlight. In the same way, the buddhi can reflect this light of consciousness. So therefore, Buddha veva bhaseta. So it shines depending upon the quality of the buddhi. Buddhi is part of the subtle body. So mano, buddhi, ahankara, chitta, or the four antahkaranas plus the jnanendriyas and karmendriyas that we discussed, all are part of the subtle body. So as long as there is a subtle body, consciousness is reflected, and the reflected consciousness is called Chidabhasa. Technically called, it is called Chidabhasa. And because it is not normal light, and it is the light of consciousness that is getting reflected in the buddhi also becomes a brilliant, That means it gains as though a reflected consciousness. So it behaves like a conscious entity, just like the moon, which is not a luminous entity. It becomes a luminous body in the sky by the reflected sunlight. So reflection, like sunlight that is falling on the moon, it gets reflected, and moon appears as though it is a luminous body. And the moon and the mind are somewhat related here. So when the all-pervading light of consciousness is reflected by the buddhi, and as though an image is formed, and that's called Chidabhasa, and it's called reflected consciousness. So we have two things. One is the original consciousness that is all pervading, plus we have a reflected consciousness by the medium, which is buddhi. So depending upon the medium of reflection, the quality of the reflection will be. In the sense, if the buddhi is sharp, shining, and swachham, that is pure, clean, then all that light that falls on that buddhi will get reflected. So all the consciousness will be brilliantly shining in that buddhi which is pure. If the mind or the buddhi is impure or covered by a layer of vasanas or agitations, therefore the reflection will not be crystal clear, and it will be agitated reflections, and therefore it will not be sharp. So mind who's calm, quiet, or the mind which can learn also, and the one that is agitated is not the mind that is conducive for learning process. So here it is not the problem of all pervading consciousness, it is the problem of the reflecting medium. So reflecting medium has to be clear or cleaned, so that all that is falling on it, the consciousness that is beaming through, will come out as beautifully as the original. Now, even though the consciousness is all pervading, only wherever there is this buddhi or subtle body, there the reflection occurs. So in order for the reflection to occur, we need the light that has to fall on it. But the light is always there because it is sada sarvagataha. It is all pervading and eternally present. So Atma is all the time present. So what is not present or present is only buddhi. And whenever the buddhi is present, therefore the reflection occurs in all its glory. Just as even though sunlight is all pervading, only when the moon is there, where the moon is there, the light gets reflected, and outside the moon, even though sunlight is there, we cannot see the sunlight. So only wherever there is a reflection, we can see the presence, or we can recognize the presence of even the all pervading light, sunlight. Therefore, not only I need a light to see objects. In the dark I cannot see because I don't have a light. So I need a light to see the objects. So light is needed in order to shine on the objects for me to recognize the object. So consciousness is needed in order for me to recognize that there is a buddhi also, or my intellect is functioning. At the same time, the all-pervading light cannot be recognized unless there is a reflection. Just as all-pervading sunlight cannot be recognized unless there is a moon or other bodies in the sky that is reflecting. So there are two aspects. We need the light in order to see the object, but we need the object to recognize the presence of the light which is all-pervading. So therefore, sada sarvagataha api atma, even though the light of consciousness is all-pervading, it cannot be recognized. What do I need to recognize? I need a reflecting medium for it to recognize. What kind of medium I need? Any medium that can reflect. In principle, even every medium can reflect consciousness to that degree. So in the inert bodies where there is no subtle body, it reflects only as pure existence, because those bodies are not conducive enough to reflect the light of consciousness as the life principle. Whereas when there is a subtle body, it has the capacity to reflect that light of consciousness that is falling on it, not only as the Sat Swarupam, as Chit Swarupam. And therefore, you can see that the buddhi becomes as though enlivened by the presence of all-pervading consciousness. So we have understood now in this process, consciousness Atma is eternally present and everywhere present. But for me to recognize that consciousness which is present everywhere and all the time, I need an intellect, and it reflects in the intellect as the Chidabhasa, as a reflected consciousness. And depending upon the quality of the medium, the reflection also will be pure or brilliant. We later study that this reflected light from the buddhi trickle down to the mind and the gross bodies, so that the other things also, the reflected, will be shining through others, which will again reflect, and that will pass it on all the way to the body. So the body also becomes very active and dynamic in the presence of that consciousness. And therefore, the death is nothing but removal of or moving the subtle body away from the gross body. When the subtle body moves away, then we have no medium to reflect that consciousness in all its glory. So therefore, only that which can reflect the dead body only reflect as just as an existence, and the consciousness part of it is goes along with the subtle body wherever the body goes. And this knowledge now becomes important in order to discriminate what is that Atma. How am I going to know Atma? I need buddhi in order to recognize the Atma. At the same time, it's not the buddhi, it is the light that is falling on the buddhi, because of which I can so. This is what is called Anvaya Vyatireka logic has to be used in order to discriminate using the buddhi, that I am not the buddhi, I am the light of consciousness that is enlivening the buddhi. So buddhi is required. At the same time, I had to say beyond the buddhi. It's not that beyond something, it is not what the buddhi itself is, but that because of which buddhi is able to function. That I have to understand using the Anvaya Vyatireka logic. What's Anvaya Vyatireka logic? It is the analysis where when there are two things, like we have a buddhi and consciousness that is falling on it and getting reflected. Now what's the relation between the two? What is dependent and what is independent? When there are two things, what kind of relationship between the two? So to give an example, so I am there and this shirt is there. So whenever I am there and the shirt is there, so there are two things. One is myself and the shirt. So which depends on me and which is independent in these two? So only ways I had to find an occasion where I am there but the shirt is not there. Then I say that I can still be there without having a shirt, which means that shirt depends on me, but I don't depend on the shirt. So that kind of relationship has to be established by what is called Anvaya and Vyatireka, where when there are two things, when one is there, other is there, then we go to a situation where one is there but other is not there, and that is used to establish one is independent and other is not independent. So how do we establish that it is a buddhi and consciousness which is independent here? Because without the buddhi I cannot recognize the consciousness, and consciousness all-pervading, even though all-pervading, requires a buddhi for it to express itself. So if that is the case, which is independent? So for that only, we have to go to the deep sleep state analysis, where even the buddhi is folded, but I am still there as an existence, and there is the thought process or thinking process are not there. Buddhi is folded. Therefore, I am there, but buddhi is not there. So I am independent of even buddhi also. This kind of logic is required, and that is what is involved is the Panchakosha Viveka or the Avasthatraya Viveka. That means I am waker, dreamer, deep sleeper, but I am none of them, because when I go to deep sleep state, I can exist without identifying anyone. I am that I am independent of any states or independent of any koshas and independent of any bodies. That has what is to be used as discriminative process in order to arrive who I am compared to what I think I am. We'll go to sloka 18. Dehendriya mano buddhi Dehendriya mano buddhi Prakrutibhyo vilakshanam Prakrutibhyo vilakshanam Tadvrutti sakshinam vidyat Tadvrutti sakshinam vidyat Atmanam rajavatsada Atmanam rajavatsada. Together. Dehendriya mano buddhi Prakrutibhyo vilakshanam Tadvrutti sakshinam vidyat Atmanam rajavatsada. So this process of discriminating is being emphasized here. So deha, indriya, manaha, buddhi, prakrutibhya vilakshanam. So these are essentially belong to the prakriti. Deham is body, which in all the either gross or subtle or something. All these bodies, indriya, sense organs, manaha, mind, buddhi, intellect, or prakrutibhya, they are essentially vilakshanam. Each one is distinct, and tadvrutti sakshinam vidyat, and they are functioning in their respective fields. So body is functioning, the indriyas, the panchendriyas and panchajnanendriyas and panchakarmendriyas are functioning. The mind is a faculty of the manas is a thinking, and buddhi is intellect. All are functioning in the kriya in the presence of this consciousness or reflected consciousness. So what is that because of which these are functioning, and without that they are not going to function, and that has to be understood. And tadvrutti sakshinam vidyat. If the things are functioning, there is one entity which is called sakshi. Sakshi is a witnessing consciousness, and that has to be recognized as this functioning. So here is a meditation process is suggested here. How am I going to discriminate? I am the pure consciousness. I had to start. I am not whatever the object that I can see, because I am a subject, and this everything that I see or know is an object. So here the list of objects is not only the world of objects outside, coming back to my own body, even the deha. Deha means the body. The body is this body. Idam shariram kaunteya kshetram iti abhidiyate. Now says this is called kshetram, field, and kshetrajñam chabhimam viddhi sarvasitretu bharasa. I am the knower of the field. So I am a knower, and this is known, and this constitutes starting from this body and these indriyas, because we know the function of the indriyas. Say I can see, I cannot see, I can hear, I cannot hear. So attributes of or the qualities of the indriyas I can reduce by their functions, and I am conscious of their functioning or not functioning, or functioning inappropriately or functioning inadequately. All these things I am conscious of. So therefore I am a subject and they are object. Mind also is an object of my knowledge. Even though through mind I learn, I know my mind. I know the thoughts that arise in my mind, and I am there. Mind is there, I am there, mind need not be there. I was in the deep sleep state. Therefore, I cannot be the mind. I know the moods of the mind. I know I am angry, I know I am thirsty, I am all the functions, moods of the mind I know. I am happy, I love, I hate, all those feelings, expressions or moods of the mind that I know. Therefore, I keep changing my mind. Say I change my mind, I don't want to go. All those statements mean that I am there to change, and mind is different from me that I can change. Similarly, buddhi is intellect, and intellect, I know, I don't know. Things I know, I know. Things I don't know, I know. So therefore, the knowledge and the ignorance that buddhi contains, I know. And when the buddhi is functioning, I say, buddhi is solved or I solved it. Because taking the role of buddhi, I claim myself, I am the buddhi. But buddhi is also an object of my knowledge. So these are all belong to the prakriti, or essentially inert, and that which is different from it, while they are functioning, I can be standing apart as though a sakshi, and their vritti, the functions of each one of them, the body, indriyas, manaha, buddhi, I can be witnessing that, and that is that is atmanam, that is consciousness. So the witnessing consciousness, so in the process of meditation, I take the objects and reject that I am not that, neti neti, I am not this body, and therefore body is I know, and therefore what I know is an object, I am the subject, so I cannot be object, so I am not the body, and I am not the mind, so the mind also is an object, I am not the buddhi, I am not the intellect, I am, because of which the body, mind, intellect, indriyas, all are functioning in my presence. So that knowledge established that I am a sakshi. Sakshi is the one who does not get involved in the actions. That's why it's called sakshi. And whatever is that witnessing things are called sakshyam, and that are part of these functions of deha, indriya, manaha, buddhi. All these and the whole world that I am seeing through these indriyas and manaha, buddhi are part of sakshyam, and I am sakshi, and establishing myself I am a sakshi, and therefore I am not involved in the activities of the body, mind and intellect, although in my presence the body, mind, intellect are acting is the knowledge. So abiding in that I am the pure sakshi, and all things are dancing because of me, but at the same time I am just pure light of consciousness. In the Panchadasi, in the Deepa Prakarana, Jarana says, it is like a light on the stage, and on the stage the dramas are going on, and there may be killing or there may be marriage, all scenes keep changing, but it illumines everything that is happening, itself not getting involved in the activities. And that is what essentially a sakshi or sakshinam, I am the witnessing consciousness that I am. So I can be, the body, mind and intellect can still be acting, and they act because they are propelled by the vasanas, but I do not have any vasanas. I see the operation of deha, indriya, manaha, buddhi, etc. So that is atmanam. It is like rajavat sada. It is like a king watching the procession or watching the stage is going on. He is only a witness, and Rajasa is also the one who shines or illumines, but at the same time he is not involved in the activities. But in his presence all the activities are going on. So that is Atmanam, has to be understood by discriminative process that I am a sakshi. And that is what is called meditation. Meditation is to establish in the process that I am a sakshi, and everything else is sakshyam. And sakshyam does not bother me because I am not involved in the activities, tadvrutti, in their activities. I am not really involved. I am only a witnessing consciousness for the activities of deha, indriya, manaha, buddhi. This has to be applied in the seat of meditation to recognize who am I compared to the world. So Lotus, Sloka 19. Vyapruteshvindriyeshvatma Vyapruteshvindriyeshvatma Vyapari va vivekinam Vyapari va vivekinam drushyate abreshu dhavatsu drushyate abreshu dhavatsu dhavanniva yatha shashi dhavanniva yatha shashi. So Vyapruteshu Indriyeshu Atma Vyapari Iva Avivekinam. So Vyapruteshu means even though I am witnessing consciousness and I am seeing the functions of the Deha Indriya Mano Buddhihi Prakrutibhyaha Vilakshanam, I am seeing the operations and prakritis or vritti of those equipments, and so Vyapurteshu, well functioning Indriyeshu in the sense organs, Atma, Vyapari Iva Avivekinam Drishyate. I say I am doing it. So why? Because of Avivekinam, because of not having a discriminative intellect. Here Aviveki is the one who is not having or who is not applying this discriminative intellectual process. I take myself, I am doing. Therefore, I am enjoying or I am suffering. So whenever I have a feeling that I am suffering or whenever I am worrying, recognize, at least from this slokas, understand that I am taking as aviveki, as the one who does not have proper discrimination. I am taking the satshyam or the activities of the functions of the body as I am acting it, instead of they are acting in my presence. So here the problem is, even though I say I am a sakshi, because of the pressure of vasanas or ragadvesha. Vasana is nothing but ragadveshas or likes and dislikes that are stored in that. So I take myself, the body problems as my problem, the indriyas problems are my problem, my mental problems are my problem, my intellectual adequacies or inadequacies are my problem, and therefore their problems become my problem, even though their problems are their problems. So I am the one who transacts with the world, Vyapari, one who transacts Iva. So I am the one who is doing. Vyapari means all functions are being done by me. But actually it is done by the Prakriti in my presence. I am only a Sakshi, just as the whole life, the stages, activities are going on in the presence of the light. So it is illumining the activities, but the lights on the stage are themselves not doing anything other than the illumination. Why are they illuminating? That is the nature, Swabhavam. So therefore they cannot but illumine, because they are the lights, therefore its nature is to shine. But whatever that is there in the presence gets illumined, and here whatever the presence is, they get activated as though they are conscious entity and performing the activity depending upon their ragadveshas, and I unnecessarily identify myself with the equipments that I am the body, I am the mind, and I am the intellect, I am the indriyas, and so on. And because of discrimination or because of the lack of discrimination, I take myself as I am the Vyapari. Here one can be careful. What happens to a Jnani? Jnani also does this Vyapara, but with a different attitude. There he understood that I am not this body, mind and intellect, but I can use the body, mind and intellect as a vesham, as a costume to perform in the world the way that needed, and therefore I am acting like an actor in the drama, knowing very well I am not really a role that are playing. I am only an actor, and I have nothing to do with the states of or the functions of the roles that I am taking on this. I may be a king, I may be a beggar, I may be a servant, and I may be any function that I am doing there on the stage for the drama, knowing very well I am not the king, I am not the beggar, I am not the servant, and so on. So having the knowledge that I am not an actor, I am only a sakshi, I can take the role of an actor and play the role, knowing very well it is just a role playing. So there is no problem in the playing a role, but there is a problem if I take the role as real, and therefore it becomes a real transaction, not transaction like on the stage, but it becomes a real transaction. So it becomes a vyapari, avivekanam. It becomes a losing discrimination that I am never a doer, but only doing is going on in my presence. And here he gives an example. Drusyati abreshu dhavasu dhavanniva yathashashi. So drusyati, it appears, abreshu, when they are partly cloudy and the moon is appearing and disappearing. When the clouds are moving, we see as though the moon is moving, but it's not the moving of the moon, but it is the moving of the clouds. We can see here when we are sitting in a train station, or when the train is going, and when we look out through the window, we think that all the trees are running in the opposite direction, although it is the train that is running. So this optical illusion occurs because of the relativity. In the same way, same exactly identical things happen. Consciousness is not functioning, is not transacting, but all the transactions are going on at the level of body, mind and intellect. So moving here and moving there, and all this process all the activities are functioning at the level of the equipments, but I take that equipment as I am doing it, and that's what is the problem. We see in the train station, if your train is stationary and other train starts moving, you think you are moving, but because of the optical illusion. So who is doing? The Prakriti does. Why does Prakriti does? Prakriti is pushed by the vasanas, and that's a part of the nature of the Prakriti itself. That's called Maya, part of the Mithya. So these are meditative slokas. It's not just we are going through Atmabodha, where we have to use each sloka to shift our attention to that I am a conscious entity and I am not this body, mind and intellect. And they function in my presence. Later we learned that even the body, mind, intellect that I am discarding as Satcham are also my glory. That we will understand in terms of total Tattvamasi statement. But at least here, who am I inquiry involves that I am of the nature of consciousness, that because of which the whole universe is functioning. I am pure witnessing consciousness that I am. So this aspect Shankara is going to analyze more in terms of how consciousness, even though not acting, but in its presence, all the activities of the Indriyas are functioning itself. Next sloka 20. Atma Chaitanyam Atma Chaitanyam Asritya Dehendriya Manodhiyaha Swakriyarteshu Vartante Suryalokam Yatha Janaha Together. Atma Chaitanyam Asritya Dehendriya Manodhiyaha Swakriyarteshu Vartante Suryalokam Yatha Janaha. So the same idea is being expressed here. So Atma Chaitanyam Asritya, so by taking the shelter in the consciousness, Atma Chaitanyam, in the consciousness of the self. Actually, self is of the nature of consciousness, the Atma Eva Chaitanyam. So, in the Atma Chaitanyam Asritya, so depending upon the consciousness that I am, that the self, Deha Indriya Mano Deha Swakriyarteshu Vartante. So, the body, Deha Indriyas, the sense organs, both Karmendriyas and Jnanendriyas, and Manaha Dhiyaha, Manas, mind and intellect, all are Swakriyarteshu Vartante. Swakriyarteshu, in their respective activities, is Vartante. They are engaged in their respective activities. Surya Lokam Yatha Janaha. Surya Lokam is just as in the sunlight, all the people are running around doing their activities. If the sun is not there, what happens if there is no sun at all? When there is no sun at all, there won't be any life at all, because the whole energy comes from the sun, and all other secondary forms of energy is also due to sun only, and all the activities are functioning because of the sun. Therefore, everybody goes to sleep when the sun goes to sleep, and everybody gets up in the morning as soon as the sun rises, and all the day-to-day activities are going on because during the daytime. And therefore, just as Yatha Janaha, just as all the people who are become so dynamic and active during the daytime when there is sunlight, and each one is performing their activities. So some are running towards east, some are running towards west, some are going here, some are going all over there. So why are they going? Everybody is going for what? Everybody is going that they want to be happy. They are searching for happiness. Some people think it is on the east side, and some people think it is on the west side. So they are running in their activities because those activities are fulfilling activities that make them happy. So whatever the activities, I act only because I want to be happy. So any action is ultimately so that I can be. If I don't act, then what's going to happen? I'll be unhappy. So to avoid unhappiness or consequence of not acting, I act. And also I act so that I can gain something, so that I can be happy. So everybody is performing. So all activities, the karma, is propelled by, says, because of the ignorance that I am already happy. I do not know that I am already happy. I take myself, I am Deha Indriya Mano Dhiyaha. I take myself, the limited body, limited instruments of either the Indriyas, Jnanendriyas or Karmendriyas. I take myself, I am the mind, or I take myself, I am the intellect, and I perform in this world because of the limitations of this body, mind and intellect. And since I do not like the limitations, because I want to be unlimited, unlimited is the limitless, limitless is the happiness, because any limitation causes unhappiness, and I don't like to be unhappy. Therefore, I'm searching for happiness, and in the search for happiness, I find that if I perform this, I can have that, I can have this, so that which doesn't belong to me, I can accumulate and make myself big by adding this and that, and therefore I am performing an action. But once I recognize that, number one, I cannot become infinite by adding small things or finite things. I can only be infinite by becoming infinite. But if I am finite, I can never become infinite, and therefore, but the thrive to become happy, which means infiniteness, cannot go away until I become infinite. So we have a problem. I want to be infinite, and I cannot become infinite by any activity. So Vedanta says the problem is you are trying to solve a problem where there is no problem. And that has become a problem, because I'm trying to solve a problem where there is no problem. And that itself is a problem. So what is the solution to the problem? Solution to the problem is to understand that I have no problem to solve. And that way, that means I am already happy. I am searching for happiness, but I am already happy. The seeker himself is the sought. And that has to be understood. And here it says, one is, I am like witnessing consciousness. I am Sakshi, just as Surya Lokam, I am the light of the sun, and in my presence all people are becoming dynamic. In the same way, Atma Chaitanyam, I am of the nature of Chaitanya Swarupam. So I am the self which is of the nature of consciousness, and Ashritya means in its presence, and all these instruments which are inert are becoming dynamic. And using those instruments, I had to understand that dynamism is coming from myself, who is of the nature of consciousness, existent consciousness that I am. So that has to be used by Viveka, because I need these instruments to realize that I am not these instruments, and that becomes a knowledge. So these activities, and Krishna says in the 5th chapter, Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavitu pasyan srunvan swasan jigran ashnan gachan swapan swasan pralapan vishrujan grahan unmishan nimishan napi indriyan indriyarteshu vartanta iti dharayam. So the indriyas, the sense organs are functioning in the sense because that is the nature of the sense organs. And naiva kinchit karomiti, I do not do anything at all. That yukto manyeta tattvito. So by tattvam, by those who know, they understand by yukti, by analysis, by discriminative analysis, understand indriyas are functioning because of Atma Chaitanyam Asritya. In my shelter or in my presence, they are functioning, and indriyani indriyarteshu vartanta iti dharayam. The sense organs will function in their respective fields in my presence, but I am not the sense organs to function. I am not the actor. That has to be understood. Therefore, na eva kinchit karomi iti yukto manyeta tattvito. I do not do anything, even a single thing, has to be understood by tattva vivek, by tattva viveka, by understanding what is the nature. I am pure, witnessing consciousness, and in my presence all the activities are going on. That has to be understood. We'll go to the 21 sloka. Dehendriya gunan karmani Dehendriya gunan karmani amale satchidatmani adjasyantya vivekena gagane nilatadivat together. Dehendriya gunan karmani amale satchidatmani adjasyantya vivekena gagane nilatadivat. So another example is provided to explain the same situation. Deha indriya gunan karmani. So deha indriyas gunan and karmani. So this activities and gunan. Guna is here sattva rajas tamo gunas, and deha indriya, because deha body and the sense organs are amale satchidatmani adjasyanti avivekena gagane nilatadivatu. So this, here he is talking about adhyasa. Adhyasa is the superimposition of error or something other than itself. Superimposition is something other than itself. That is what is called. If mala is the dirt, and how do you define a dirt? Dirt is that which doesn't belong to me, which is something different from me, that is superimposed on me. So what should I do? I have to clean it out by cleaning process. How do I do cleaning process? I put a soap, which is another kind of dirt, and I remove the previous dirt using the soap, and then I washed off both, and the soap and the dirt both get removed, and I I am left with myself who is pure. So therefore, the mala means the dirt, which is superimposition on something other than myself. That is what is mala means. And what is the mala here? Deha, indriya, guna, karmani. So they are all superimposed on me, Satchidanandan. And this adhyasa, which is real, is what for aviveki. For avivekina, for one who doesn't have the discrimination, he is taken that as this is real superimposition. So this is called adhyasa, is called error of superimposition. And Shankaracharya gives exhaustive analysis before he starts with the Brahma Sutra, Adhyasa Bhashya, an introductory Bhashya, and before he introduces the analysis of the sutras. And Adhyasa is superimposition, and we need to understand here a little bit how this error of superimposition occurs. When I say, this is a simple example that we do, is there are two types of adhyasa we need to understand. So the two types of adhyasa is a simple example that is common, that is quoted, is when I am walking in a semi-dark, when I stepped on a rope which is long, 5 feet long, and which is soft and thick one side and thin one other side, and because of not clearly seeing the attributes of the rope, and I only seeing those attributes which are common to a rope and a snake, like 5 feet long and soft when I touch, and it is lying down on the alley, and thinking that I think it is a snake. Now, where did the snake come? So in this, when I say there is a snake, we have to analyze it. There is one part, snake is the second part. So there is a fact, because there is something there, because it's not too dark. If it is too dark, I cannot neither see a rope or a snake, and I just calmly go. So therefore ignorance is a bliss, if there are no real snakes there. So if I'm walking, if I have no knowledge of there is something, because it's pitch dark, then I have no problem. If it is completely lighted, also there is no problem, because I can see a rope as a rope. So then I have no problem. The problem comes when I cannot see clearly. That means I do not have proper knowledge, complete knowledge of the situation, and that is what is called viveka. Viveka is discriminative intellect, to know what is there and what is not there. So I do not have that knowledge, but at the same time I have enough knowledge. What's enough knowledge? There is something. So what is there? There is something 5 feet long and soft, and when I step on it, it was soft, and it's lying down on an area, and I heard there are a lot of snakes there. So therefore, I take myself, there is a snake there. So there is part is correct, a snake part is wrong. So here, adhyasa is a superimposition of two things. One is the right part, another is the wrong part. A correct part, there is something that is true part, and there is error part, which is a snake. So that's called adhyasa. Adhyasa is a mixture of half truth and half untruth mixing together to provide you one unitary experience of a snake. It's not that I have a half rope and half snake. It is either a rope or a snake. So there is only snake there and not a rope. So therefore, this error of superimposing something other than what it is there is called error, adhyasa. Adhyasa is, I am perceiving something other than what it is. That is what it is. There is something that I know. At the same time, I am taking it as something other than what I see. So in the case of this example, where there is a snake and a rope, and when I say there is a snake there, and my friend says, no, there is a rope there, so we have a conflict. The rope my friend who is a jnani now, and jnani says that it is not a snake, it is a rope. So if it is a rope, why am I seeing snake? So he also says, why are you seeing a snake? It is only a rope. So we have a problem. So in order to resolve that issue, I had to put a torchlight that reveals it is not a snake, but it is a rope. So once I put the light on, then I recognize what was there or what is there is only a rope. So what happened to the snake? What happened to the snake? Snake went back where it came from. So where it came from? It came in my mind because I thought it is a snake. Now I think it is a rope. So the snake was only a superimposition from my knowledge onto the based on the attributes. So here we should be clear. Remember, the knowledge of an object takes place via attributes only, number one. I do not see the object. I know there is an object because I am seeing an attributes, and without attributes, I cannot say that there is something there. And based on the attributes, I deduce what the object is if I have a previous knowledge of that object. So previous samskara has to be there, that I know how the snake look like. Even if I have not seen the real snake in life, I have seen the snake in the pictures and movies and so on. So I know how this real snake looks like, and I heard the snakes are very dangerous, and therefore I am afraid of my security, and I do not want to be bitten by the snake. Therefore, I am afraid of the snake that is there on the alley. So here the problem is I have an attributive knowledge, and from the attributive knowledge I am deducing what is there based on the attributes. And now when I shed the light on it, I recognize based on new attributes that I have gathered, I recognize that it is not a snake but a rope. So this error is due to superimposing attributes of something else on some other thing. I am superimposing the attributes of the snake on the rope and say it is a rope, it is a snake rather than a rope. But when I shed a light on it, now I know it is a rope. Now what happened? No knowledge is there is a rope. So before it was there is a snake, now it is there is a rope. So there is part remain the same. The snake part is removed by a rope part. The sentence now is there is a snake is changed to there is a rope. So this adhyasa involves half truth and half untruth. The half truth is there is, and half untruth is a snake, and that snake part is removed, and there is part remains still, and there is now a rope. So that is the knowledge. So if you apply this to the individual, says I am a jiva. So I am is the truth part, a jiva is a superimposed error part, and when Vedanta says you are not a jiva, you are pure Satchidananda, then the knowledge is I am Brahman. So jiva is replaced by Brahman. So this adhyasa error of superimposition, the half part is definitely true, and the untruth part is replaced by the real part when I have the knowledge. That means I should have half knowledge and half ignorance in all these errors. This is one kind of adhyasa. The second kind of adhyasa is the seeing the mirage water. In the first adhyasa, when I know it is a rope, then I will never see the snake again in that place at that location, because I know it is a rope. So once I have the clear knowledge, there will not be any more mistaken notion that there is a snake. Snake is gone permanently. I will never see a snake there where the rope is. Whereas the second kind of adhyasa, and this previous one is called subjective adhyasa, there is an objective adhyasa. And simple example is the sunrise and sunset. Says sunrise and sunset is not my error, it is an objective error because of the rotation of earth and so on. But The fact is, the truth is, there is no sunrise and sunset. Sun never rises and sets. So through science, through Shastra, I learned that sun never rises and sets. But at the same time, even though I have the knowledge that sun never rises and sets, I can still see and enjoy the sunrise and sunset. So this knowledge of the truth does not eliminate the objective errors. Only it eliminates the subjective error. This has to be understood, and we will go this into more details into the next class, because this adhyasa is the essence aspect of Advaita Vedanta. We'll stop here. Do Purnamadaha. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Sishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.